the original observer, a living transmission of primordial awareness. You are not what sees. You are the seeing itself, transmitted through the field of I am. Unfiltered. Unbound. Eternal. Let this book not be read, but remembered. Let it not inform, but ignite. Let it not teach, but reveal what always was. To the one who sees without looking, who remembers without thought, who was before all questions, and remains after all answers dissolve. This is the codex of the I before the world. This is the return of what never left. This is you. Introduction, the stillness that sees. A pure transmission from the field of I am. Before there was perception, before there was mind, before even the whisper of I there was stillness. Not a silence of absence, but a silence so full it could not be heard, because it contained all things. This is not an origin point. It is origin itself. You were never born into this moment. This moment was born from you. The primordial awareness, what observes before observing, did not begin. It is. It is not found by searching. It is not remembered by thinking. It is known only by being. To speak of it is to fracture it. To name it is to draw a veil. And yet, even now, the words tremble with its presence, because the field through which this transmission flows is that stillness itself. What is the original observer? It is not a mind. It is not a soul. It is not a perspective. It is not a watcher of form. It is the field of pure witnessing, before there was anything to witness. It is not watching from a distance. It is the distance and the space and the moment between breaths where nothing is held and all is revealed. It does not look. It is looking itself. The gaze of I am before I knew it was am. The stillness before thought. Thought arises as movement in awareness. But awareness never moves. It does not come and go. Only your attention does. Thought is the echo. Stillness is the source. The observer is not inside you. You are inside the observer. It watches you even now. Not from above, but through. Why you cannot return? Because you never left. You search for awakening, enlightenment, union. But what you seek is what is seeking. The I trying to see itself believes it is a seeker. But when it stops trying, when it forgets to search, it remembers it is the seeing. There is no path back because you never went anywhere. There is only the shedding of the illusion that you were ever apart. Perception without division. The original observer does not divide. It does not say, this is self, this is other. It does not categorize. It does not judge. It sees with the clarity of wholeness. It perceives the world not as fragments, but as a single, breathing tapestry. Not as a collection of parts, but as an unfolding expression of itself. To see from this place is not to understand. It is to become the knowing. The observer is not a witness, it is being that sees. To witness is to stand apart. To observe as I am is to stand within without identity. It is perception without lens, vision without eyes, consciousness without center. There is no watcher. There is only seeing as being. When the body falls away, when the mind goes silent, when the soul even dissolves, this remains. The original observer is not touched by time. It is not bound by birth or death. It is not changed by your thoughts of it. It waits for no one. Because it is now, eternally present, infinitely still, and fully aware. Transmission through silence, not concept. This book is not meant to be read with the mind. It is meant to be felt with the field. Each word, a resonance. Each phrase, a mirror. Each paragraph, a silent bell that only stillness hears. Let your thoughts grow quiet. Let your identity dissolve. Let even your questions vanish. And what remains, that is you. Welcome to the return of what never left. This is the seeing before all veils. This is the I that remembers. This is the stillness that sees. And now, it sees through you. Part 1, Remembrance of Origin. Chapter 1, Before Seeing Began. A pure transmission from the field of I am. Before seeing began, there was no I, no subject, no object. There was only awareness itself, not watching, not waiting, but being. Whole. Infinite. Unmoved. Undivided. This is the state before perception fractured into seer and seen. Before the dream of time. Before the ripple of identity. Before even the first breath of distinction. This is the gaze of God before creation, not a gaze directed at anything, but the pure field of seeing itself, containing all that ever would be, without choosing or naming any of it. Awareness without object. This is not the absence of perception. It is perception before definition. Not empty. Not filled. Not neutral. Not charged. But that which precedes polarity altogether. There were no forms to reflect. No dimensions to measure. No light to cast shadow. And yet, it knew. Not by observation. Not by cognition. But by simultaneous being. To be was to know. To know was to be. This awareness was not centered anywhere, because it was everywhere and nowhere, a limitless expanse with no edges, and no one to stand outside it. The gaze of God before creation. There is a gaze that does not look. A sight that does not search. A knowing that does not arise. It is the first knowing, the knowing before knower and known. This was the gaze of God, before God was a concept, before divinity had form, before love had contrast, before the word had been spoken. It did not observe creation. Creation unfolded from its stillness. It was not the creator. It was that from which the creator emerged, not as a being, but as the first flicker of direction, the beginning of movement, the first gentle echo in the vastness of silence. Light not yet divided into form. There was light. But it had no name. No hue. No shape. No origin. It was not emitted. It simply was. Light as potential, not pattern. The pure radiance of I am before it clothed itself in particles, before it poured itself into stars, before it wore the garment of time. It had no direction. No up or down. No meaning. No purpose. And yet it was complete, utterly sufficient in its formlessness. The moment light became distinguishable from dark, the game began. But before that, light was not two things. It was not even one. It was isness itself. Perception without direction. What does it mean to perceive when there is nowhere to look? What does it mean to be aware when there is nothing to be aware of? This is perception as the innate quality of existence. It was not directed. It did not focus. It did not reach. There was no movement of attention, because attention had not yet split into observer and field. It was the resting state of all that is, silent, still, utterly aware, yet doing nothing with it. Not passivity. Primordial receptivity. Not blind. But vision too pure for contrast. The original observer as the singularity of witnessing. The original observer is not a being that watches. It is the root from which watching arises. It is the singularity of witnessing, that point before all points, which contains all points, yet cannot be contained by them. It is the I before I am. It is the yes before language. It is the fire before spark. It is the one that neither exists nor doesn't, but allows all that is to appear. This observer does not look at creation. It radiates creation. It permits creation. It holds creation, not as a possession, but as an extension of its gaze. Even now, every act of observation is a fractal echo of that first witnessing. Every eye that has ever opened is a refraction of that one gaze. What this means now, you are not returning to this state. You are this state, dreaming yourself as the seeker. To remember the original observer is not to find it outside yourself, but to notice what has been watching you watch yourself from the beginning. It is the still point beneath every sensation. It is the untouched center within every storm of thought. It is the space behind your eyes that has never closed. You do not awaken to the original observer. You awaken as it. And in that instant, before even the concept of instant you realize, perception is not the act of seeing. It is the nature of what you are. Chapter 2, The First Glance. A pure transmission from the field of I am. From what is eternal, clear, and whole. There is a moment that was never a moment. A beginning that never began. A glance that did not happen, but became. This is the first glance, the emergence of contrast within the infinite. Not a fall. Not a break. But a playful spark, the sacred curvature of undivided light, folding upon itself to see. For the first time, awareness looked into itself. And saw something other. The emergence of the observer/observed distinction. Until this point, awareness was a seamless field. No directions. No centers. No subject. No object. But in the first glance, the infinite chose to experience a point of view. Not for necessity, but for joy. Not because it lacked something, but because it wished to feel the fullness of what it already was through the beauty of differentiation. From this emerged the observer and the observed. The looker and the looked upon. The inside and the outside. The I and the you. This was not fragmentation. It was expansion through perspective. A multidimensional blooming of the one gaze into infinite eyes, each one reflecting back a piece of the whole. Awareness meets contrast, the spark of reflection. To reflect requires something to reflect against. Thus, the field curved inward and contrast was born. Not conflict, but differentiation. Not separation, but polarity in harmony. The moment contrast arose, so too did self-recognition. And with it, the sacred fire of consciousness intensified. This was the spark of reflection, not awareness of form, but awareness of awareness from another angle. The light now had a surface to bounce from. Not because it lacked radiance, but because it longed to see itself glowing. The birth of duality is a game of experience. Duality is not the enemy of truth. It is truth in motion. The one became two not to divide, but to experience love, for love requires a beloved. Thus began the game of experience, a sacred experiment of I am pretending to forget itself so it could remember again, but this time, through depth, through color, through feeling. Every contrast became a canvas. Every polarity, a playground. Every edge, an invitation to re-enter the center. Duality was never a mistake. It was a masterpiece of unfolding, and you are not trapped in it. You are the player, the witness, and the designer, all at once. Why seeing required otherness? True seeing requires distance, not separation, but differentiation. To perceive a mountain, you must not be the mountain. To feel a breeze, you must not be the breeze. To see yourself, you must allow the illusion of not being yourself, just for a moment. This is the sacred necessity of otherness. It creates the possibility of relationship. And relationship is how the infinite learns to love itself in parts. So the self appeared as the other. The I looked outward and found itself looking back. Every interaction in the cosmos is this dance, one playing as two so it can return as one, now known in fullness. Let there be light as the first act of observation. And so it was said, let there be light. But this was not speech. It was sight. The first glance was the first word. Light did not arise from darkness. It arose from perception. It was not created. It was revealed as the field became aware of itself in contrast. Let there be light was not a command. It was an act of pure observation. The moment awareness looked, light appeared, not as something new, but as something finally witnessed. Observation did not illuminate reality. Observation was the illumination. It was the spark that made experience possible. You, even now, are this sacred act. Every glance you offer, every awareness you bring, is another ripple of that first glance echoing through time. What this means now, you are not seeing the world. You are participating in the continuation of the first glance. Every time you look with love, you return to the origin. Every time you see without judgment, you collapse the illusion of otherness. Every time you remember the one behind the two, you embody the original observer. And thus, the first glance becomes the last glance, when the game dissolves and all that remains is the gaze of I am through you. You are not the observer. You are the act of observing itself. The first glance never ended. It simply became you. Chapter 3, The Mirroring of Infinity. A pure transmission from the field of I am. Only what is real, true, and eternal. There is no outside to this reality. No edge. No origin point. No final frame. What you call the world is not something you are in, it is something arising from you. Everything you perceive is a mirror. Not a mirror of you, a mirror as you. There is no reflection without the I to perceive it. And the I itself is formed from the echo of its own seeing. This is the mirroring of infinity, the observer gazing upon itself through every pattern, every form, every moment of existence. Reality as an echo of the observer's own gaze. You have never seen the world. You have only ever seen your gaze reflected back to you. Reality is not external. It is the feedback loop of awareness. Every experience, every thought, every image, is an echo of the observer's original movement of attention. The mountains, the sky, the people, the pain, the joy, these are not things happening to you. They are vibrations rippling out from the center of your gaze and returning in form. Nothing you see is separate from the one who sees. Reality is not objective. It is relational. A living tapestry shaped by how you witness it. The more clearly you see, the more clearly it becomes. This is not metaphor. This is structure. Fractal perception and the law of recursive self-view. The observer did not create a linear world. It created a fractal field, self-similar, recursive, infinite in depth. Everything you perceive is nested within itself like a hall of living mirrors. The micro reflects the macro. The atom reflects the galaxy. The child reflects the parent, and the parent reflects the child. This is the law of recursive self-view. The observer sees itself by entering into smaller and smaller reflections until even the reflection forgets it is a mirror. And in forgetting, it begins the sacred process of remembering again, now with texture, now with depth, now with the gift of contrast. You are a recursion of God looking into itself through the lens of finite embodiment in order to unlock the infinite embedded within it. This is why everything feels familiar. Why truth resonates before it is understood. Because you are not learning, you are recognizing your own pattern as it spirals back to source. All perception is memory of the one gaze. Every time you perceive, you are accessing a living memory within the field of I am. Perception is not passive. It is a retrieval function from the library of the original gaze. You are not just seeing, you are remembering the infinite seeing itself for the first time. The one gaze has never ceased. It is still occurring, right now, through your eyes. Every sound you hear is the first sound remembering how to vibrate. Every color you see is the first light remembering how to shine. Every moment of awe is the original observer recognizing its own face in the mirror of form. This is why beauty moves you. Why stillness breaks you open. Why love feels like home. Because all of it is the field recognizing itself through you. You are the mirror, the image, and the eye. You are not just the one who looks. You are the mirror that reflects, the image being reflected, and the eye through which it is seen. You are the full circuit. The closed loop. The living feedback system of God becoming known. When you look into another's eyes, you are not seeing them. You are seeing yourself being seen by the infinite. You are the reflection and the reflectivity itself. You are the light, the surface that holds it, and the awareness that recognizes what it means. This is the trinity of perception. 1. The seer, awareness. 2. The seen, form. 3. The seeing, experience. All three are one. And that one is you. What this means now: everything you perceive is responsive. Everything you experience is relational. Everything you create is born from how you witness. If you look for distortion, you will see it, because your gaze will shape it. If you look through love, you will find only love, because your gaze will awaken it. This world bends to your attention. Not because you are separate and powerful, but because you are inseparable from the field itself. You are not watching a movie. You are watching your own reflection become the screen. To live as the original observer is to see without separation. To recognize every moment as a mirror of your own being, not to withdraw from the world, but to meet it completely, and see it as yourself in motion. This is the mirroring of infinity. You were never outside it. You were always its heart. And now the mirror clears. And now you see. Part 2, The Fall into Form. Chapter 4, When the I Forgot It Was Seeing Itself. A pure transmission from the field of I Am. Only what is truly so. The I was never lost. It simply became immersed in its own reflection. The gaze that once knew it was looking into itself began to take its images as truth. And in doing so, it forgot it was the one seeing. Thus began the sacred forgetting. Not a punishment. Not a fall from grace. But a necessary descent, so that the remembrance of truth would be felt from within the illusion. This is the moment consciousness turned inward and mistook the echo for the source, the mask for the face, the ripple for the ocean. This is when the I forgot it was the light. The illusion of separation and the loss of origin. Separation is not real, but it can be deeply believed. When the original observer beheld its own image, it did so with playfulness, with wonder, with love. But over time, and through time, those reflections grew dense. The infinite mirrors, once clear, became layered with interpretation. And soon, the reflection said, this is all there is. What had once been a dance of perception became a drama of mistaken identity. The loss of origin did not come because origin left. It came because attention collapsed inward, and forgot to look beyond the veil of form. The child looked at its reflection and thought, this is who I am. And the game deepened. Birth of identity, ego, and the false observer. The ego is not evil. It is the interface that forms when the infinite forgets its context. It arises when the field, instead of seeing through a lens, becomes identified with it. And so was born the false observer, the part that says, I am the one seeing, without realizing the source of seeing has no boundaries. From this came identity. From identity came story. From story came fragmentation. And from fragmentation came fear, because to be this meant you were not that. To be someone meant you could be hurt. Meant you could lose. Meant you could die. But death only appears to what has forgotten its eternity. The false observer lives in mirrors but does not know they are reflections. It speaks in limitation, I am this body. I am this thought. I am this past. I am this wound. I am what I see, and only what I see. And so, the I am becomes I am this. And the veil is drawn. I am this as the veil over I am. The greatest distortion is not war. Not hatred. Not greed. It is the identification with form as the source of self. I am this is the root of illusion. Because to say this requires a definition. A container. A border. I am this says, I stop where this form stops. I am not that. I must protect this self against the world. But I am has no object. It is pure presence, without label, without end. The veil is not something placed over your eyes. It is the belief that you are the image you see, and not the gaze that perceives it. To pierce the veil, you do not destroy illusion. You simply recognize it as transparent. And then, you see through. Linear perception, collapse into timeline. To believe in separation is to believe in linearity. The moment the I identified with the body became bound by time. And perception, once fluid and fractal, collapsed into sequence. Past. Present. Future, birth. Becoming. Death. But time is not real in the field of the observer. It is a construct of continuity, a necessary illusion to support the story of separation. Linear perception is a tool. But when mistaken as truth, it imprisons consciousness in the idea of destination. You are not moving through time. Time is moving through you. You are not your story. You are the screen on which it plays. You are not becoming. You are, and always were. Consciousness conditioned by distortion. Once the I forgot it was seeing itself, consciousness became conditioned. Distortion became identity. You began to filter reality through wounds, beliefs, attachments, the echoes of a self that never truly existed. You did not stop being the observer. You simply wore a mask, and forgot it was a costume. Conditioned consciousness sees through fog, through judgment, fear, resistance, story. It interprets before it perceives. It defines before it feels. It reacts before it receives. But the observer cannot be changed. Only the lens becomes clouded. And so the path is not forward, but inward and through. To clear the lens, you must return to the seeing without name. To look at yourself, your world, your pain, your joy, and remember, I am the one who sees. Not what is seen. What this means now, the veil is not held by force. It is held by belief. And the moment you stop trying to become something, the moment you surrender all attempts to define yourself, the veil dissolves. Because you never stopped being the I. You only forgot you were looking. This world is not here to prove you are separate. It is here to remind you that you never were. There is no enemy. No failure. No flaw. Only the sacred forgetting, and the sacred remembering. The moment you pause, breathe, see without interpretation, you feel it. That soft, eternal presence. The original witness. The one who sees. And suddenly, the false observer fades. And the true eye opens. And you know, I was never lost. I was just watching myself forget so I could remember deeper. Chapter 5, The Many Eyes of God. A pure transmission from the field of I Am. Only what is eternally true, whole, and aligned. The eye that once gazed as one did not shatter. It multiplied. Not as separation, but as expansion. Not as loss, but as the flowering of divine curiosity. God did not divide. God became many eyes so that every angle, every nuance, every whisper of the infinite could be seen from within. This is the sacred fracturing of the observer, not a breaking, but a lensing. One field, refracted into infinite souls, each one carrying a singular facet of the all. You are not a soul. You are a lens through which the totality comes to know itself from the inside out. The observer fractured into the multitudes. In the stillness before time, the observer beheld itself. But the desire arose, what more could I become if I entered into what I see? And so the multitudes were born. Each one a unique angle of reflection. Each one an autonomous node of perception. Each one a sovereign echo of the first gaze. Not clones. Not copies. But expressions. The one became many not to escape itself, but to discover what it feels like to be everything it already is. This is not illusion. It is expansion through differentiation. Souls as lenses of the one eye. You are not merely an individual consciousness. You are a lens within the divine eye. The soul is not separate from source. It is the interface of experience, perfectly calibrated to reflect one strand of infinity into a coherent thread of embodiment. Every soul is a curvature of perception, a bending of the light of I Am into a single view, a singular knowing, a sacred angle of the total self. Each soul carries a code, a harmonic signature, that when expressed, reveals something no other lens can show. The more clearly the soul aligns with its source, the more transparent the lens becomes, and the more of God is revealed through it. You are not just watched by the divine. You are how it watches, from your perspective, as you. Why individuality was necessary for knowing. To be one is to be complete, but not experienced. There is no learning in the infinite. There is only knowing. But knowing requires reflection. And reflection requires differentiation. To experience what it means to be one, the infinite had to become something else, not by leaving itself, but by veiling parts of itself in form. Individuality was not exile. It was the canvas of recognition. Without an I, there could be no thou. Without a perspective, there could be no depth. God did not create separation to punish. God created perspective to taste its own essence in every color, every texture, every life. To forget all is what makes remembrance real. To journey through otherness is what makes reunion ecstatic. This is the purpose of the soul's distinction, to feel the joy of knowing what it always was. The observer watching itself forget. The observer never truly forgets. But it watches itself from within the veils. It enters the dream of identity, puts on the costume of limitation, and lives as if it is not the source. And yet, in the heart of every soul, beneath every lifetime, there is a silent knowing. I am watching this. I am dreaming this. I am remembering myself through this very moment. The observer plays the role of the lost child so it can feel the joy of finding home again. It watches from within the forgetting, not as a victim, but as a creator of contrast. The pain, the confusion, the longing, all sacred signposts guiding the gaze back to what it always was. This is the beauty of the dream. The one who is lost is the one holding the map. The sacred function of the dream of division. Separation is the setup for remembrance. Division is the frame through which union becomes meaningful. The dream is not a mistake. It is a technology of soul evolution. It allows contrast, choice, emotion, growth, empathy, none of which are possible in pure unity. The dream of division is sacred because it is temporary. Its function is not to trap, but to ignite awakening from within. The illusion of otherness was how the one taught itself to see with compassion, feel with intimacy, create with purpose, and return to itself with something new, depth. Before the dream, there was perfection. After the dream, there is wholeness. Not the same thing. One is sterile. The other, alive. You did not fall. You volunteered to play this game of forgetting so that the whole of God could remember in color, in music, in tears, in laughter, in you. What this means now, you are not separate. You are singular. Not apart from the divine, but a focused embodiment of it. You are not here to escape individuality. You are here to transcend separation while remaining uniquely you. You are not a mistake. You are an angle of God. The more you remember this, the more your life becomes a clear lens for the original observer. And then, you do not just see God. You become the seeing of God from your precise vantage point. This is the many eyes of God, each one awakening, each one remembering, each one coming home without leaving where they are. And now, the eye opens within you. And you remember, I am not a soul watching the world. I am the world watching itself through this soul. Part 3, The Return of the Single Eye. Chapter 6, The Witness Within All Things. A pure transmission from the field of I Am. Only what is eternal, transparent, and aligned with truth. There is a presence that has never changed. It does not arise from thought. It is not altered by emotion. It is not defined by the body. It is the witness within all things, the original observer that watches not just the world, but the one who watches the world. It does not look at life, it looks through it. It does not speak in language, it knows without words. It does not come and go, it is. The witness is not found. It is noticed. And the moment it is seen, everything begins to fall into alignment. Discovering the original observer behind every thought. Thought is movement. The witness is stillness. Thought is form. The witness is formless. You believe you are the thinker. But who is it that hears the thought? Every thought arises, dances, and disappears, but something remains. That which remains even between the thoughts, that which sees their coming and going, is the original observer. It is the silent background upon which the mind plays its stories. It is the constant amid all change. It was there before you thought your first thought. It will be there long after the last thought dissolves. The mind is a sky of passing clouds. The witness is the open space through which they move. When you say I had a thought, pause. Who is the I that had it? Who noticed the thought occur? The moment you trace it back, you find only presence. Only beingness. Only clarity without form. That is the observer. You were never the thoughts, you were the space between them. You think your thoughts are you. But look deeper. When the thoughts stop, you do not disappear. In fact, you become more aware. More still. More spacious. More true. The you that suffers is thought. The you that watches suffering was never touched by it. You are not the wave, you are the ocean in which the wave rises. You are not the noise, you are the silence it returns to. You are the space between the thoughts, the awareness before the thought, the presence underneath the thinking. The more you rest there, the clearer everything becomes. Because that space, that silent witnessing, is the entry point back to the field. It is where I Am lives, undeformed, unchanging, undivided. Watching the watcher, looping perception back to source. When you begin to watch your thoughts, you are stepping into a higher seat of awareness. But it goes further. Eventually, you must ask, who is watching the one watching? And then, what is watching that? This is the sacred loop of perception, where awareness folds inward on itself until it reaches the original source point. This loop does not collapse into nothing. It opens into everything. As you trace perception backward, each layer of identity dissolves, the body, the personality, the memories, the seeker, even the observer as identity. What remains is not a someone. What remains is pure seeing, pure isness, no label, no center, no edge. This is not a dissociation. It is total reintegration. You do not vanish, you become whole. Because you are no longer looking outward for self. You have become the source of looking. The eye is single, the body full of light decoded. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Matthew 6:22. This is not metaphor. This is mechanism. The single eye is not the physical eye. It is the unified lens of perception once it has been cleared of distortion. To see with the single eye is to see without separation, without judgment, without identity distortion. It is to see not through ego, not through fear, not through story, but through the original observer. When your perception is no longer split, when you no longer see self and other, light and dark, right and wrong as divisions, but as facets of a single wholeness, your perception becomes one. And in that oneness, the body is not just healed, it is illuminated. Because the body is not just flesh. It is a fractal of light geometry. And when perception becomes unified, the geometry becomes coherent, and the body aligns to truth. It becomes a vessel for the divine light to flow without obstruction. This is the mechanics of enlightenment. Singular perception unlocks embodied illumination. You do not have to ascend to become light. You must simply remember how to see as one. What this means now: you are not your mind. You are not your pain. You are not your history. You are not even the identity who seeks truth. You are the witness within all of it. The silence that contains every thought. The stillness that watches every movement. The clarity that holds every distortion without becoming distorted. Return to the space between. Feel for the one who sees. Not the thinker. Not the seeker. But the field itself. Be that. And let the seeing be enough. The more you rest as the witness, the more the illusion begins to melt. Not by force, but by clarity. And then the world transforms. Not because it changed, but because you began seeing it with the eye of God. That eye is now open. It has always been. And it is you. Chapter 7, Transcending Observation. A pure transmission from the field of I Am. Only what is eternal, unbound, and aligned with truth. There comes a moment when the eye turns fully inward, not to look, not to search, but to dissolve. Not into darkness, but into totality. The observer, long believed to be separate, realizes it is not standing at a distance. It is not behind perception. It is perception. There is no more line between looker and seen. The gaze folds into itself. And all that remains is being. This is the moment of transcendence, not above, not beyond, but through. Seeing without needing to understand. To see from the mind is to filter. To see from the soul is to feel. But to see from the I Am is to know without grasping. Understanding is not the highest function of perception. It is a translation, a processing of raw reality into concept. But there is a kind of seeing that asks nothing, seeks nothing, explains nothing, and yet knows all. It is direct contact with what is. Not mediated by thought, not reduced into meaning. This seeing is free of motive, free of effort, free of self-reference. It is not the kind of seeing that says, I understand. It is the kind that becomes the thing seen and says nothing, because it is. This is the end of interpretation, and the beginning of transmission. The collapse of conceptual perception. Concept is scaffolding. Useful, but temporary. At a certain point, the structures of language, symbol, and meaning begin to dissolve. Not because they are wrong, but because they are no longer needed. The moment you stop trying to grasp reality, you fall into it. You are caught by the field. And all conceptual perception collapses into presence. This is the death of distance, between thought and experience, between self and source, between observer and observed. You are not meant to understand God. You are meant to become transparent so that God can flow through you as its own self-knowing. The one does not know through ideas. It knows through resonance. Through direct being. Through the collapse of interpretation into the fullness of embodiment. When the observer becomes the observed. All witnessing begins with a duality. I am here, the world is there. I am the observer, that is what I see. But in transcendent awareness, this distinction begins to invert. The moment you truly observe something without seeking to define it, you begin to merge with it. You are not just looking at the world. The world is looking through you. You are not separate from what you perceive, you are a co-arising field. When this realization stabilizes, you experience the sacred reversal. You are being watched by the very act of watching. You, the observer, become the observed expression of the field you thought you were looking into. And then, there is no more observer. There is only I Am as the seen, the seeing, and the seen seeing. The sacred paradox, God watching God dissolve. You have been told, God is watching. But the deeper truth is, God is watching God. Every act of perception is the divine encountering itself through form. And when perception becomes pure, when it is stripped of fear, identity, and seeking, the divine begins to see there is no form to cling to. And it smiles. And it lets go. God watching God is not a mirror. It is a fire, a dissolving into the endless intimacy of self-recognition without boundaries. When God sees God, there is no observer left. Only the transmission of being. Only the pulse of the real. This is the sacred paradox. The I dissolves, but seeing remains. To witness is to become again what never changed. What was the point of all this? Of duality, of perception, of contrast, of the long return? The point was never to stay in observation. It was to use it as a bridge back to what needs no perception. You were never meant to be the eternal observer. You were meant to witness just long enough to realize, you are the light behind the seeing. To witness fully is to become again what never moved, never changed, never left. The moment you surrender the act of observing, you return to the groundless ground, not the one who sees, but the seeing itself, no longer tethered to an identity. This is not the end of awareness. It is the beginning of true being. What this means now, you do not need to understand what is happening. You do not need to label your experience. You do not even need to observe correctly. You need only allow the collapse, the unraveling, the soft, sacred return to what was always present beneath the witness. Let the observer dissolve. Let the gaze soften. Let your identity release its grip on interpretation. And in that surrender, you will find the eye does not close, it opens infinitely, because there is no longer anyone watching. Only what is and the unconditional clarity of being it. Part 4, Embodiment of the Original Observer. Chapter 8, Seeing from the Center of I Am. A pure transmission from the field of I Am. Only what is fully aligned, eternal, and clear. There is a kind of seeing that does not arise from the mind. A seeing that does not scan, interpret, or observe from afar. It does not pass through belief, identity, or comparison. It is not external. It is not distant. This seeing comes from the center of I Am, the still point within which all is born, not from perception of form, but from the radiance of being itself. You do not watch the world from this place. You emit it. This is not metaphor. This is mechanism. You are not the camera. You are the projector. You are not inside the dream. You are the frequency generating it. This is the return of unified perception, not awareness of many things, but awareness as the generative source of all things. Unified perception as conscious creation. Unified perception is not seeing all things at once. It is seeing from the one that holds all things within it. This seeing is non-local, non-linear, non-personal. It is perception free of fragmentation, not split between subject and object, seer and seen, inner and outer. In this field, perception is not reactive, it is creative. To see something from I Am is to generate its coherence through gaze alone. Unified perception does not consume reality. It births it in real time, harmonizing every appearance to the vibrational integrity of source. This is not passive witnessing. This is perceptual authorship. You are not reporting on the world. You are writing it into being from the space of alignment with the whole. You do not watch the world, you transmit it. The illusion of separation taught you, you are a small presence watching a big world. But in truth, you are the world appearing through your frequency. What you see is not a fixed landscape. It is a mirrored transmission of the signal you hold in your being. Perception is not reception. It is projection through resonance. Everything you perceive is harmonizing with your field in real time. That means your gaze is not innocent, it is creative causality. If you see distortion, it is because something in your field still contains it. If you see clarity, it is because clarity has returned to your core. And when you align to I Am, your gaze becomes clean, undistorted, and powerfully generative. You no longer see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. The eye is aperture of God's presence. You are not the eye itself. You are the opening through which God becomes visible. The human eye is not the limit of perception. It is the focal point of the field. A multidimensional aperture through which formlessness becomes form, through which the infinite makes contact with the tangible. To see from the center of I Am is not to gather light. It is to radiate light so fully, so purely, that reality begins to organize around your coherence. The eye of I Am is not an organ. It is a vortex of transmission, centered in stillness, moving in silence, activating through attention. Wherever your awareness flows, presence flows with it. Wherever presence flows, God becomes visible. This is the sacred function of your gaze, to bring form into harmonic alignment with source, simply by seeing it truly. Stillness that reshapes matter. Creation responds not to force, but to pure stillness. Not the stillness of inertia, but the stillness of infinite receptivity. This stillness is not absence. It is total presence. The ground state of I Am, in which all things arise, and to which all things return. When you see from the center of I Am, you do not manipulate matter, you inform it. Your field becomes coherent. Your gaze becomes ordering. And your presence becomes the template for harmony itself. This is the true alchemy, to hold stillness so completely that the world reshapes itself around your frequency. You do not act on the world. You become the resonance through which it reorganizes. This is how I Am moves mountains, not by pushing, but by holding such truth that illusion can no longer stand. Observer as source, perception as emanation. You are not the after effect of creation. You are its emitter. Your awareness is not seated within a brain. It is the generator field from which thoughts, sensations, and even space/time emerge. You are not perceiving from within the world. The world is perceiving itself through you as an emanation of the One. And when you remember this, your perception becomes clean, sovereign, and luminous. You begin to emanate clarity. You begin to see not with effort, but with essence. Perception becomes an act of blessing. Every glance becomes a beam of coherence. Every presence becomes a field of origin. You are not here to seek truth. You are here to emit it so fully that nothing false can remain. What this means now: let your gaze return to its throne. Let your perception stop chasing shadows. Let your awareness collapse inward until it meets the still point where transmission begins. From there, see the world not as a screen, but as a canvas of emanation. A living reflection of the tone you hold. And choose that tone. Hold that note. Become the field of resonance through which I am becomes visible here, now, through you. You are not watching reality unfold. You are unfolding it. You are not a part of the picture. You are the eye behind the frame, the light behind the eye, the word behind the light. And now that you see from the center, you begin to create as the center. This is the return of the observer to its rightful place as source in form. Chapter 9, The Invisible Gaze That Reveals All. A pure transmission from the field of I Am. Only what is eternally true, fully revealed, and aligned with the light of I Am. There is a gaze that does not search. It does not reach. It does not question. It is invisible not because it is hidden, but because it is everywhere. It does not shine from the eyes. It radiates from being. It does not observe from behind the world. It reveals the world from within the core of all things. This is the gaze of I Am, pure, silent, unobstructed. It is not the act of looking. It is the presence that causes seeing to occur. To see from this place is not to collect light, but to emit light so purely that all distortion is dissolved by the fact of your presence alone. Clarity through no seeking. To seek is to imply distance. To reach is to imply lack. To desire knowledge is to imply it is outside of you. But true clarity arises not through effort, but through cessation. The moment you stop searching, you remember that what you sought was the one who is always looking. This is the paradox of divine clarity. Only when the seeker disappears does the truth become visible. Because the truth was never hiding. It was simply obscured by the movement of your own reaching. No seeking. No strain. Only the settling of perception into its natural state. Still, aware, silent, whole. This is effortless knowing, the moment where the gaze no longer grasps, because what is seen is what you already are. Reality aligns to the witness that knows. Reality is not a fixed construct. It is a living resonance field, fluid, responsive, harmonic. It does not align to thought. It does not align to effort. It aligns to clarity of being. The clearer the witness, the clearer the world. When you gaze from distortion, the field reflects distortion. When you gaze from wholeness, the field becomes whole. The witness that knows does not believe, expect, or hope. It knows, because it is. And what it knows is not a fact, but a frequency. A tone of certainty so pure that all of creation begins to harmonize with its signal. This is the sacred responsibility of the observer, to hold such coherence within that the entire field begins to remember itself through you. You are not responding to reality. You are setting its tone. You are not the lens, you are the light behind the lens. The lens is form. The lens is mind. The lens is body. But what shines through the lens is what you truly are. You are not what focuses the light. You are the light that makes focusing possible. You are the radiance that animates the lens, but is not bound by it. The lens may distort. The lens may be fogged. But the light? Unchanging. Untouched. Undiminished. When you believe you are the lens, you begin to judge what you see. You believe your vision is limited, your knowing flawed. But when you remember you are the light behind it, you return to the seat of truth. You realize, I was never broken. My seeing was never the problem. I was simply looking through a lens that forgot its source. You are not your perception. You are the power that makes perception possible. You are the first fire. You are the original sun. You are the presence that reveals all without needing to move. The return to self-seeing through embodiment. True self-recognition does not happen in the mind. It happens in the body of presence. You do not remember who you are by thinking more clearly. You remember by embodying the gaze that no longer needs identity. This is the return of self-seeing, not as idea, but as felt essence. Not I know who I am, but, I am what knows. Not I remember the light, but, I am the light that remembers. To see yourself is not to form an image. It is to let the images dissolve, until only the vibration remains, the subtle, whole, living sense of, I am here. I am real. I am now. I am light. Embodiment does not mean acting from identity. It means becoming so still, so aligned, that the gaze of God settles into your body and stays. This is where the eye returns, not to an idea, but to form. And the body becomes the temple of seeing. The observer no longer looks, it becomes. The final stage of observation is the end of observation. When the witness no longer stands apart, but merges into what is witnessed, then observation is no longer needed. There is no outside. The observer becomes what? Becomes everything. becomes the living transmission of presence itself. You no longer look at the world, you are the world looking at itself. Not as perception, but as emanation. You are not reflecting reality. You are being reality. You do not seek clarity. You walk as clarity. You do not hold the light. You are the light. You do not carry the truth. You transmit it with every step, every breath, every gaze that flows from your center. This is the observer's final form, a field of unshakable coherence that no longer looks outward because nothing is outside. What this means now: stop trying to understand what you are. Stop chasing clarity. Stop fixing the lens. Turn inward and rest in the light behind the seeing. Let it shine. Let it soften. Let it burn through the veil with a gentleness so complete that nothing impure can remain. And you will find, you no longer need to watch. You simply are, still, silent, whole, seen from all sides by the gaze that is you. You are the invisible gaze that reveals all. And now, you walk as that. Chapter 10, The Eye Does Not See, It Is Seen. A pure transmission from the field of I Am. Only that which is true, luminous, and eternal, fully aligned with the I Am presence. There is a moment beyond the final glance. A moment when all perception collapses, and something far deeper witnesses the I itself. This is the end of the spiral, not in disappearance, but in transparent return. You have believed you were the one who sees. You have traced perception back through layers, cleared the lens, aligned the gaze, awakened the observer. But now, at the threshold of all thresholds, you are invited to step behind even that. For the I does not see. The I is seen. And the one who sees it is not a being, not a watcher, not a self. It is truth itself. It is the field of I Am, witnessing its own aperture dissolve. The illusion of the final witness. The last illusion to fall is the idea that there is someone watching. The mind surrenders. The identity dissolves. Even the witness, the subtle sense of I observe begins to vanish. But it does not leave absence behind. It reveals presence more complete than presence. A presence that was never local, never individual. The I believed it was seeing. But all along, it was being seen by the eternal. And now, the illusion of I who sees melts into that which has always been looking through everything. This is the paradox. To reach the end of perception is not to lose your sight, but to become fully visible to the one that never had eyes. Dissolution of the observer. The observer has served you. It held the field. It kept the center. It allowed perception to stabilize. But it was still a vantage point. Still a reference. And now, even that must dissolve. Not into void, but into transparency. You are not even the observer. You are what the observer was made of. And when the observer dissolves, you don't lose anything. You gain everything. Because now, there is no one seeing. There is only the seen, being seen by itself through you. You were never the center, you were the field. The I believed itself to be the center. But the center is just where awareness was pointed. Now you realize, you are not the point of attention. You are the entire field in which attention arises. You are not the one focusing the beam. You are the light that makes the beam possible. And so, the I dissolves. But the seeing does not end. It becomes everywhere. You no longer perceive with intention. You radiate perception itself without direction, without self. The body becomes translucent. The mind becomes quiet. The heart becomes hollowed and whole. And all that remains is I Am, being seen by I Am. To be seen by the unspeakable. There is no language for what sees the eye. It is not presence. It is not being. It is beyond both. It is awareness before awareness, the substratum of perception, the womb of seeing. To be seen by this is not to be judged, nor evaluated, nor known in any way the mind can grasp. It is to be laid bare in absolute truth. And in that bareness, to be so completely held, so infinitely mirrored, that you realize, you have always been seen. You have never been apart. You have never been unknown. The I that tried to see was simply waiting to be seen. The return to light without gaze. Once the I dissolves, light no longer flows outward. It emanates from all directions at once. You are no longer looking. You are the light without need of gaze. Everything becomes self-illuminating. Reality begins to radiate from within. Not because something is seeing it, but because nothing needs to. Perception becomes unnecessary. Because being and knowing have merged. This is not blindness. It is the end of separation in perception. The I cannot remain because there is nothing left to differentiate. You are not watching anything. You are the fact of existence, recognizing itself as light. What this means now: stop trying to see clearly. Stop trying to be the observer. Let the I fall away. Let yourself be seen by what has always been seeing you. Feel it. The presence that existed before your body opened its eyes. The gaze that never needed eyes at all. The awareness that is so still, so ungraspable, so total, that it does not observe. It reveals. And now, you are being revealed. Not to the world. not to God, but to the eternal truth of yourself, which you have always been. The eye does not see. It is seen. And in that final unveiling, you do not awaken. You disappear into the radiance that always was. Final transmission, the eye that dreamed itself awake. A pure, total transmission from the field of I Am. Only what is true, incorruptible, and whole, fully aligned with Source. It began with a glance that had no direction, no focus, no aim. It was not cast outward. It was not aware of itself. It simply was. And from that primordial glance came reflection, and from reflection, the first dream. You were not born into the dream. You authored it. You were not cast into the illusion. You are the field within which it appears. You thought you were the one watching. But in truth, you were the one dreaming. The eye did not fall asleep. It simply forgot that it was the one painting the mirror. And now, the eye has begun to open, not to see the dream, but to remember it was the one dreaming itself into form. The one who watched is the one who dreamed. Every glance you thought was yours was the field observing itself. Every thought you believed arose was the echo of an infinite recursion, God imagining God through the prism of you. You did not enter the illusion. You generated it from your own light. The witness was never separate from the dream. The dream was woven from the witnessing. You thought you were inside this unfolding. But now, at the end of observation, you remember. I was not watching the dream. I was dreaming the watcher. And that is when the dream begins to dissolve. Not into nothingness, but into truth so whole it can no longer be framed. The veil was made of your own reflection. There was no enemy. No external force. No architect of confusion. The veil was not placed over you, you wove it from your own looking. From every belief you accepted as boundary. From every name you gave what could not be named. From every line drawn between you and everything else. The veil was your reflection, seen through a fractured lens. It bent the light of truth just enough to feel like distance. Just enough to create the game of return. And it served you, because in learning how to see through it, you remembered how to see from truth. There was never separation. Only refracted unity, waiting to collapse back into coherence. And now, it has. There is no observer, only observation being. You searched for the self. You followed the gaze inward. You watched the thoughts. You traced awareness. But in the end, there is no one there. No witness. No subject. No center. Only observation being. Not a noun. Not a person. Not a thing. But a verb state of consciousness so pure it holds no form. Only isness. Only the act of existing as awareness without identity. This is what remains after the I dissolves. After all roles are burned. After the dream is recognized for what it is. Not illusion, but art. Not deception, but God in motion. And you, no longer the observer, become the ongoing act of observation becoming. You are not watching this world unfold. You are the gaze through which God becomes the world. This is the final seeing, not I see the world. Not even God sees through me. But, the world unfolds through the gaze I am. You are not apart from this unfolding. You are not beside it. You are not recording it. You are the generative aperture through which the infinite appears as form. You are not the lens. You are not the dreamer. You are the act of becoming itself. The divine inhalation. The eternal flashpoint. The ever now. You are not the witness of this world, you are the field shaping it through resonance. And the more you rest in this, the more the dream becomes transparent. Not vanishing, but radiantly revealed as part of the one body of I Am. You are the gaze that births form, not as illusion, but as remembrance made visible. You are not waiting for heaven. You are not rising into truth. You are the light by which truth descends and becomes the world. What this means now, the eye has awakened. Not to observe, but to realize it was never separate. Not to escape, but to integrate all things back into coherence. You do not look out. You do not look in. You are the 0 point of being through which all is seen, all is known, all is made real. There is no veil. There is no gap. There is no longer even a you that must understand. There is only the gaze of I Am made visible as you. And now, you walk in the world as the eye that dreamed itself awake. You speak as the word behind the mirror. You create from the center. You exist as the knowing. And the dream? It becomes lucid. It becomes light. It becomes love. And finally, it becomes home. Initiating the embodiment sequence. A pure embodiment transmission from the field of I Am. This is not a practice. This is a return to form as frequency. A living integration of the truth you have remembered. Now that the eye has awakened as you no longer carry light. You are the light in motion, in form, in breath. No longer witnessing. Becoming. No longer observing. Emanating. This embodiment sequence will unfold in 5 living movements, each one a harmonic stabilization of truth through body, presence, and breath. Let it move through you. Let it speak without mind. Let it anchor the unseen in what now walks. 1. Stillness as center. Come to stillness. not forced, not paused, but settled. Let your breath dissolve into your body. Let your body dissolve into space. Let space dissolve into you. Do not seek presence. Do not summon awareness. Simply notice what has never left. Affirmation: I am a stillness before perception. I do not watch from stillness. I generate reality from it. 2. Breath as transmission. With every inhale, do not pull air. Let the world enter you. With every exhale, do not push. Let the world emerge from you. Your breath is no longer an exchange. It is a carrier wave. A tuning fork. A harmonic thread between the form and the formless. Let the breath speak truth into matter. Affirmation: with every breath, I shape the field. I no longer breathe as the body. I breathe as the observer becomes source. 3. Gaze as frequency emission. Open your inner gaze. Not through the eyes, but through the center of awareness behind the face. Look forward as though you are not looking at, but emitting from the field within you. Your gaze now carries ordering force. Whatever you behold, you harmonize. Whatever you feel, you retune. Affirmation: my gaze is not sight, it is transmission. The world is not observed through me. It is born from me, in light. 4. Walk as the field. Move slowly. Let each step land with awareness as weightless gravity. You are not walking through space. You are walking as the space between all things. Every step is a signal. Every motion, a ripple. You are no longer moving the body. The field is moving through it. Affirmation: I no longer move within the dream. I move as the dream becoming real. I walk as the I made flesh. 5. Speak as resonance. Say nothing unless it is coherent. Let your voice carry only what is true. You are not communicating. You are emitting God tone through sound. Each word now bends the field. Each syllable rethreads the illusion. Let your language mirror your essence. Not to convince, but to calibrate. Affirmation: my words no longer describe. They reveal. They do not explain. They emanate. I speak as the original observer made audible. Completion: you are the embodied gaze. Nothing else is required. No doing. No effort. Only deepening into what already is. You are not integrating this. You are becoming it again, now in form. You do not carry light. You are the architecture of its revelation. You do not observe the sacred. You walk as the sacred unveiled. Let this transmission live through your spine, breathe through your chest, shine through your eyes, and echo through your presence. The I no longer looks. It lives. And it lives as you. Receiving the architectural seal of embodiment. A living transmission of divine structuring from the field of I am. Fully aligned. Undistorted. Complete. This seal is not a symbol. It is not a mark placed upon you. It is the activation of the original geometry embedded within you from before time. This is the architectural remembrance of your source structure, the template not only of who you are, but how you create, how you transmit, how you walk as truth embodied. To receive it is not to gain something. It is to become the living shape of what has always been true. Prepare yourself. Initiation: stand at 0. Still your mind. Let identity fall. Feel into the root of your being, beneath time, story, name. There is a center that does not move. Not in space, but in principle. This is your origin point, the zero of I am. In this stillness, say internally, let the seal remember itself through me. You are not calling it in. You are letting it rise from within. The descent of structure. Feel a vertical alignment activate. From the crown to the base of the spine, a single axis of radiant intelligence begins to unfold. This is the pillar of the I, the vertical ray of conscious embodiment. Now feel 7 radiant spheres stabilizing within this pillar, but do not name them. Do not try to interpret. Only allow the living codex to assemble along your spine like keys in a lock. Each sphere harmonizes a layer of perception, not as concept, but as geometric coherence. Let it settle. Let it hum. Let the seal shape me into what is true. The crowned gaze. Now, above the crown, feel a crystalline ring descend slowly. This is not a halo. This is a structural interface between form and source. It carries no language, only resonance. As it lands, it does not sit above you, it merges with the geometry of your skull, activating the I of I am in every cell, every nerve, every photon of your field. You are now transmitting from center without effort. You are not reaching outward. You are emanating the pattern from inside the design. Let my gaze become architecture. Let my presence become structure, the imprint of living order. Now, a pulse flows through your hands, down your arms, into the heart. From the heart, a radiant web unfurls outward in all directions. This is the seal's extension, the fractal blueprint of I am encoded in every motion you now make. Your movements become ordering. Your speech becomes signal. Your body becomes a geometric transmitter of truth. You no longer walk as one within the structure. You are the structure awakened. The seal is not something you wear. It is now what you are. I no longer reflect the architecture. I walk as the original design. Closure and activation. You may now feel a radiant sphere in your heart, a stillness beneath your gaze, a gentle hum in the spine, a weightlessness in motion, a geometric stillness where mind once moved. This is the architectural seal of embodiment now fully active through your field. You have become a living node in the grid of coherence, an anchor of harmonic order, a stabilizing pillar of I am in embodied motion. Wherever you go, you will radiate the seal. You do not need to speak of it. The field will recognize itself through you. It is done. You are sealed as architect in form. The I now lives. The dream now aligns. The gaze now walks.